Welcome to The System Works, the lifestyle channel that shows you a practical way to live, the what's in it for you. The System Works. Own it. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The System Works. I'm your host, Ernest Phillips, and today's topic is one of the most consistent dating mistakes people make, and it carries into marriage, and that is they have high expectations and they have low standards. So what does that mean? And what does that look like? So, first of all, we know that most relationships end. That's just how this works. We even know that a lot of marriages end. Currently, 40% of marriages end in divorce. That's for first marriages. Second marriages, 60% end in divorce. Third marriages, 73%. So, is it marriage that's the problem? No, that is not it. Marriage is designed to give two people an opportunity to be happy with each other, to be healthy with each other. This is user error, okay? So here is where this starts. In order to find out why those statistics are so high and preventable, you got to go to the beginning. So, in the beginning, there were high expectations. You had expectations of what the relationship was going to look like. You had expectations of what your wedding was going to look like. You had expectations of what your parents were going to think of them. You had expectations of them, their role, the money, the lifestyle, how you were going to feel. You had expectations. You knew what you wanted. You knew what you really needed. Okay, you thought you did. Okay, but you knew what you wanted, right? But then what happens? You lowered your standard. Happens all the time. You meet someone and they are close. They have a lot of the things that you really like. But one of the things that you really need, it's not there. So let me give you a few examples. I have a person that I coached, and they came to me. It was after their third marriage, and they had finally decided they had had enough of unhealthy relationships. And so that's why she reached out. And so in the beginning of coaching, I'm asking the questions of, what's going on, what has happened, and we started with the first marriage. And I asked, some of the things of what led to that, what did she like about it, and then ultimately, what was the reason for the breakdown in the marriage. And her answer was very clear cut. She said she had no respect for that man. And once that happened, everything changed. And then everything that she saw just funneled into this absolute zero respect for this man. So I kept asking some more questions and digging, and we found the catalyst for this, for the absence of respect. Now, to give you a description of this individual, she was very outspoken, very independent, very strong, very socially minded, all about equality and human rights, and the man that she married was a very outspoken racist. So there's going to be a problem here. So I asked more details of, did you know he had these? And I'm not talking about he was biased. I mean, he is an individual that had developed absolute racist mindset from being in social work. He had seen things, he had had experiences, negative experiences, and had developed racially charged mindset. So again, I asked, did you know about that before you got married? And she said yes. Okay, I already know that this is going to be a problem. And she did not realize that. So I asked, what did she do to address that? She said this was their compromise. He wouldn't bring up any of his racially charged comments around her. She got to put the rule that none of his friends who have the same beliefs were allowed in the house. And that was their compromise. And again, I'm thinking, yeah, that's a time bomb. They have 2 kids. She's raising her 2 daughters to think and see the world like her. And then one day she has a friend come over who is a different color. And he says something racially charged to her friend. And that was the beginning of the end. That's when her line in the sand said, this is absolutely unconscionable. She was furious. And that is when she lost all respect for him. Now, the problem with this is she knew about him in the beginning. She adjusted her standards and somehow thought it was going to work. And people do this all the time. They adjust their standards, and here's what they typically do. They have this hope or belief or a prayer and a hope that maybe that person will change. They're not probably going to change. Or they do the mindset of, well, they're a good person. I'm getting most of the things that I really want. I can handle it. I'll be able to deal with it. And that usually doesn't happen. It may not happen in 3 months. It may not happen in 3 years. But most likely, it's going to happen. So here's one of the things that I shared with her, and it's a tug tip. The fastest way to disappointment is inaccurate expectations. Her expectations were inaccurate. And more so, the part that she had never thought about was she had set him up for failure. He had shared who he is, who he was, and who he is going to be. And by marrying him, she gave implicit support that says, I accept you for who you are, when she really didn't. And that's not fair. That's really not fair. That's not fair to him. And when we do that, we're not making it fair for the other person. Now, have I ever done that? Yes. I'm human. I have made this dating mistake. So when I brought to her attention that not only was it her ownership of getting into that, but I also brought up the negative sides of that. This is a guy who still pined for her after the divorce, after she got married, after she got divorced a second time, after she got married a third time, after she got divorced a third time. This guy still pined for her because all the things that he saw in her were still there. He felt like, I still don't know what happened. He never really figured out why she lost respect for him. But it was something that was there the whole time. So here's your action step. Know what your non-negotiables are. Start there. What are your non-negotiables? And it doesn't matter what they are. It's okay to have a standard. And it's good to have a standard. And it's really important to know what your standard is and why you have one. People are going to see you all different types of ways. But if they know what your standard is, they have a chance to be successful with you. So be clear, be upfront. Make your standard and know what your non-negotiables are. If anything, start there. What are the things that if this is in place, you cannot be with that person? One of the things for me is I am so unattracted to cowardice. And this is for a friendship. This is for anything. For me, one of my non-negotiables is cowardice. And when I think of cowardice, the picture that I have, and I love movies, is in the movie Saving Private Ryan. You have one person, he is standing in the stairwell. He has a gun. His fellow soldier is in the room next to him in a fight with the enemy. And they have knives and they're fighting. And he's standing there. He hears the fight and he does nothing. And his fellow soldier is killed. And the other person, the enemy, walks around the corner, looks at him and sees the fear and the cowardice in his eyes and just walks right by him. And there he is. He's standing up against the wall. He's shaking. He's not making eye contact. He has a gun and he does nothing. And that is the picture of cowardice. And that is why that is not something that I am going to, that's a non-negotiable. Another non-negotiable, people who are just hurtful and just evil intent, not going to hang out with you. It's just not my thing. If we have to work together, I will be respectful because that's my value. I'll give you truth. That's my value. I'll show love. That's my value. I might even still give you some humor. That's my value. But outside of that, we're not kicking it. We're not hanging out. You don't get invited to the barbecue. You don't get invited to the fire pits. You don't get invited to anything fun because that's not who I deal with. So find out what your non-negotiables are. Start there and keep your standards because those things are going to come back and they're either going to help you or they're going to haunt you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again. We hope you enjoyed this episode of The System Works. Have fun with the action steps. Enjoy the Wi-Fis. Click like, click subscribe, and comment. The good and the bad, we like them all. We look forward to seeing you next time. The System Works. Own it.